Corona ada lagi, ada. Ideally, just to see I still have a lot of Then you provide direction to go to that. You don't do something. And you call people or fight again. Awesome. Thanks a lot for calling.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the second. Yeah, I need to fix that. So yeah, what's up, guys? Welcome to the second Sophie Bot podcast of the year. Hope you're as excited as me. And as I said last week, this is the first 2 minutes. It's me spamming, guys, that you're live. Tune in. Feel free to share the link and join us as we wrap up our discussion about contraceptives. Yes, contraceptives. Welcome. If you haven't heard about us, we are Sophie Bot. We answer your questions on sexual and reproductive health. And once every week, we sit down with you and discuss any topic, a leader candidate topic on any issue on sexual and reproductive health. And this is our second podcast of the year, our podcast episode number 7. Remember, we started this last year. And today we'll be wrapping up on contraceptives. And my clickbaitish title is Outercourse, of course. But before I begin, remember this discussion is always informed by whatever is happening during the week. And I gave a primer on what led us to talk about contraceptives. But let me track back to our third episode where we had the entire discussion on gender identity, gender identity expression, and the likes. So yesterday, one of the mainstream media, one of the mainstream media channels, NTV Kenya, had a featurette on the intersex, the condition, and they in fact help drive the conversation that there's more to life and there's more to gender than just binary genders, and that was really cool. And I used the platform to try it on and let people understand that we tackled this topic. We tackled this issue last year, and we tackled the broader issue of gender identity expression and orientation, and we also focused a lot on, we used the intersex condition as our starting point. So yes, these conversations that we have here are candid, are honest, are relevant, and it's yes, relevant to the African and the Kenyan context. So welcome to the Sophie Bot BOTCast. Last week I covered a ton of stuff on contraceptives, but then time wasn't on our side, so we were like, let's wrap it up next week. And then as I was reviewing content for this week's podcast, we're like, we have so much to go through. We can make this entire month contraceptive month, because it's contraceptives plus birth control, and I have really cool insights for you. My spamming is done. Remember, we're doing this every Monday. Last week we had some technical issues. My sound was cut off at some point, and I made it up to you by recording another fully audio podcast of the same. So be sure to check that out. I take questions live. That's why we do this live every week, and I'm also lazy to do the entire production and then upload it later. But then we do this live every week, and join in, share, and we take comments live. So swiftly into contraceptives or birth control. I forgot to mention my source last week, and you never reminded me, guys. So yes, I'll remember to set you up with my source at the end of this podcast. So you're talking about birth control, contraceptives. We talked about the most hottest and the most debatable discussions ever, including pulling out. Sophie would tell you pulling out does not work at all. And we discussed it at length. And I gave you insights from my source. We talked about spermicides, we talked about vasectomies, we talked about tubal ligation, we talked about emergency contraceptives and why the morning after pill isn't the only the emergency pill isn't the only form of emergency contraceptive, and you have other options. So today I'm going to continue the discussion, and I'll start with what I added on the title, Outercourse. Outercourse is basically a new sexier word for safe sex, basically that. And all sex ed and sexual education conversations has been driven by this specific theme, abstinence and safe sex. So it's basically simply you choosing to refrain to not have sexual intercourse. And surprise, it's 100% effective. It costs 0 shillings, and same to pulling out. A lot of dedication and willpower is required. So for as more people, there are people who think of abstinence as not taking any, not being sexually active in any way at all. But then outercourse involves other forms of sexual expression aside from vaginal penetration. That's basically what causes pregnancy. So I'll talk about abstinence and then extend it to something else, to another form of contraception. And directly from my source, we talked about the mechanics of how each form of contraceptive prevents pregnancy, and abstinence is basically that, keeping semen away from the ovum so no pregnancy occurs at all. But then there's also for people who also don't want to be who want to be sexually active and use outercourse as their form of contraception. It's same way, keeping sperm away from the ovum, but then you do other sexual activities that excludes penetrative sex or vaginal sex, and it's basically a lot of foreplay, massages, masturbating, phone sex, dry humping, grinding, and then talking about your fantasies. Like, that's basically outercourse. That is the clickbaitish title I lured you all in to this conversation on contraceptives and birth control. So yes, I'd take any questions there. So if you go on Sophie Bot and basically type in sex, that's basically what you mean with outercourse. Yes, we have to know. We have to tell you we have answers on Sophie Bot too. So I've talked about outercourse. I'd plan to go into another theme, but then I'll move forward to one method called fertility awareness methods. This is basically when you track your CFDs. A lady tracks her CFDs. It's a way to track your ovulation period so that they can prevent pregnancies. FAMs, it's also called FAM, fertility awareness method. It's also called natural family planning and the rhythm method. My stats here are about 76 to 88% effective. It requires you have to spend about 2 this is an American estimation. A lot of dedication is required, and then there are certain days where you at all choose not to indulge in any sexual activity. So what it involves, it's basically lady tracking her menstrual cycle so they know when ovulation occurs, and that's when they shouldn't participate in any sexual activity or have vaginal sex or penetrative sex at all. The days near ovulation period are the fertile days where the lady is most likely to get pregnant. So people use FAMS, fertility awareness method, to prevent pregnancy by avoiding sex or using another method of control, like a condom, on those specific safe days. So there are 3 different ways where you can track fertility and track your cycle, whether regular or irregular. So it's a temperature method where you monitor your temperature. The lady monitors her temperature in the morning every day and before they go out of bed. There's also a vaginal discharge method where the lady monitors a vaginal discharge so that she knows when she's closer to ovulating. And then the next is a calendar method where the lady charts the entire menstrual cycle on a calendar so that she knows when are her safe days or when it's not her safe days. It's most effective to combine all 3 methods to get a better read. And you must understand, the lady must understand if her cycle is regular or irregular. And it's while you're doing our research, while you're starting out, Sophie, but it's so detailed. The ladies who have apps that track, like an app where they make entries and they track their cycle that way. So 12 out of 100 couples using this form of contraceptive will 12 out of 24, 12 to 24 out of 100 will end up with a pregnancy. So yes, you can make it more effective when you work with a nurse or a doctor who knows the fertility awareness method so well, so that they inform you to use it correctly. You have the time and the discipline to check your fertility signs and chart your cycle every single day, and your partner doesn't mind avoiding vaginal sex or using any other kind of birth control during your fertile days. So those are the 3. If because we should remember our first podcast where we had Munira, a startup focuses on the menstrual cycle and from making sure she provides pads through a dispenser, and she's probably your best resource on the menstrual cycle. So if you want to discuss that, have an entire episode on that, let us know and we'll be able to host that. I wanted to move from Outercourse to the farm method, and then I'll go into disclaimer. This is where I add. There was a discussion he had. There's a new product coming out, trying to pretend it was a contraceptive method, which it wasn't. It was for the guys. It's called a fit chip or a fit chip. It's basically a sticker you put at the end of the opening at the head of the penis, so that during intercourse no semen spills out of the penis, which is not a form of contraception. You're subjecting your urethra to urethral trauma. It's not a form of contraceptive. It'll never feature on our podcast as a form of contraception. So don't do that at all. That's like 0% no. Stay healthy. And what I'd like to talk about next is, and remember guys, this is open. We take questions live on air, and yes, you can join us right now. Share this, join us. So yeah, it's awkward I didn't add the fertility awareness method last week, because it's more or less like appropriate for this age group and every age market. So an interesting one. So how many hands up? How many of you by the show of reactions knew breastfeeding is also a form of contraception? But then it sort of beats the purpose that your form of contraception is getting a child and by giving birth and breastfeeding her. But then yes, it's one of the coolest insights I've gotten this entire week. It's breastfeeding is a form of birth control, but it has to be done in a certain way. So when you exclusively breastfeed, that means you nurse every 4 hours during the day and every 6 hours, like after every 4 hours during the day and after every 6 hours during the night with only breast milk. The body naturally stops ovulating. You can't get pregnant if you don't ovulate. Basic biology, ovulating, ovum leaves the ovaries into the fallopian tube, ready to be fertilized. So no ovulation means you won't have your period either. That's why breastfeeding as a birth control method is called lactational amenorrhea. It sounds like a Harry Potter spell. So lactational amenorrhea. It refers to lactation, obviously means breastfeeding, and amenorrhea means not having your period. So a ton of dedication is required, and this works up to 6 months from giving birth. For 6 months after giving birth. And my stats here are 98% effective, a lot of dedication required. And my comment here is, if you do lactational amenorrhea so well, it's as effective as hormonal contraceptives like the pill, like emergency pill or birth control pill. And about 2 out of every 100 couple who use this breastfeeding method get pregnant, but then this only works after up to 6 months after birth. So yeah. So remember, it's a really interesting one of the interesting thing about birth control, and then in itself it has to be done in a specific way. It's interesting. We didn't talk about condoms last week. Like that's latex condoms are sort of your only top of mind recall contraceptive method. But then, as we've demonstrated the last 2 weeks, there are tons and tons of options. to choose from, and to choose from appropriately. There are three stretchy if you didn't know, if you don't like, if you've listened, you've just listened to the podcast and you don't know what a condom is at all, you can ask Sophie, but she can answer. But then I'll describe them again. The thin stretchy pouches that also, this is specifically a male condom that the male partner wears over his penis during sex. Condoms provide great protection from both pregnancy and STDs. Remember last week I was outlining which forms of contraception only protect from pregnancy and which protect from both pregnancy and STDs and infection. They're made of latex, plastic, or lambskin. This is in the 1800s-ish, because that's the evolution of that specific innovation. But then they have to be used really well. So same thing, this prevents pregnancy by stopping sperm from getting into the vagina and fertilizing an ovum, an egg, and cause pregnancy. And yes, they protect against STDs, and use them. You can use condoms on all forms of sexual intercourse, all forms of penetrative sexual intercourse, oral, anal, or vaginal. You guys have a ton of anal questions on Sophie, but that's why I'm zero chills about mentioning it. So this is like a pro tip. This is for legends only. So if you cut a condom up on the side, like on the tip, you can open it out and put it on the vulva for safer oral sex, and they're helpful for anyone. They're not the only form of birth control out there, as I've demonstrated the last 2 weeks. So if you're using any other form of birth control like the pill, it's also a good idea to use a condom, because all these other form contraceptive, like especially hormonal contraceptive, because of the effectiveness, they recommend also using a condom. Even especially fertility awareness, they're like, you're safe on the safe days. You can congress. Why am I tuning things down? You can have sex normally, but then when it's safe days, now use other form of contraceptives, i.e. A latex condom. But then this is the male condom. There's a female condom too, so I'll come back to that. And remember, only latex condoms protect from STDs. Only latex, and that's the only way you get. I'd be surprised, and let me know on the comments if this happens. If you're using any animal membrane condom out there, you never know. You never know. But then only latex condoms protect from STDs. And remember, if you need details, a step-by-step instruction how to use a male condom, how to use a female condom, and Sophie Bot just ask, how do I use a male condom? How do you use a female condom? How do you use a condom? It gives you both instructions on both male and female condoms. How to handle a condom after use. Yes, because there's a peer mentor story I had. They'd use a visual aid to demonstrate how to use a condom. So see something like a banana or a carrot, but then when couples are actually in the act, they get a banana. It's really crazy. They get a banana, put the condom on the banana, and then congress normally, but then expect that form of birth control works. But that, so no, or properly not using, checking if the latex condom is secure enough for you to use it. So yes, there's a step-by-step instruction on handling and use of condoms, specifically male condoms, on Sophie Bot. I'll talk about female condoms on be sure. I am certain of that. And yes, female condom. Most people don't know this at all. So it's 85% effective. Cost about no prescription is required. and you have to put it on every time before sex, like every single time, and use it carefully. So most people don't know about this yet too, that there's a female condom exists too. So yes, ladies out there, there is a female condom for you if that is your choice of contraceptive. uh, they provide the same protection from pregnancy and STDs. What's different about them is that instead of them being put on the penis, it's put on the vagina for pregnancy prevention. My stats here are about 79% effective. There's no prescription required, and you have to put it on every single time before sex. So they also call internal condoms. So either of the two nomenclatures, or either of the two names can get you one. So they're not just birth control; they also reduce the risk of sexually transmitted infections, and they can be used for more than just vaginal sex. So female condoms are getting easier to find online and at family planning centers. And prescription and information. I confirm that to Kenya. They are small, discreet, and a portable way to get great protection from pregnancy and STDs. So fun fact, it has been shown during sex, a lady can use a female condom without and his male partner does not know at all and does not realize during the act at all. So that was a fun fact we discovered while you were mining data for Sophie Bot, and it's applicable to you guys. There's even an anti-rape female condom. Basically, it has spikes to lock in the penis and hurt the attacker. So that's cool. So more power to you girls. So yes. Yeah, that was a comment. No, that wasn't a comment. So remember, guys, share this, join us, let's discuss this, and we take your questions anytime. We have no problem taking questions live on air. So yeah, I wanted to finish up with, we've talked about fertility awareness, condoms, female condoms, and once again on Sophie Bot, there are step-by-step instructions on how to use a female condom. Just ask, how do I use a female condom? There's step-by-step instructions on the use and the handle of a female condom. So yes, that's awesome. So still on that note, I'd group them together, talking about the diaphragm, the cervical cup, and the birth control ring. So a diaphragm is a shallow bendable cup that is put inside the vagina, and it covers the cervix during sex to prevent pregnancy. Remember, once again, pregnancy occurs after sperm and semen fertilizes an ovum, an egg, and then it's implanted onto the uterine wall to count as conception and pregnancy. It's made of soft silicone, and you can bend it in half and inside the vagina to cover the cervix. It's about 88% effective, and it needs prescription. You need a gynecologist or a doctor to prescribe it to you, and then also you have to put it in before sex every single time. Okay, I was a bit sidetracked by I need a co-host who will be hosting this conversation so that I can stay on the comments. But then yeah, I'm reading some of your comments. Keep them coming. Yeah, we're talking about a diaphragm. So, and it stops sperm from fertilizing an ovum. So in order for the diaphragm to work best, it must be used by some spermicide. Remember us talking about spermicide before? This E side doesn't mean kill sperm. Basically means stop, slow down, render important the sperm and semen from actually fertilizing and getting to an egg. So adding spermicide to your diaphragm before you put it into the vagina makes it more effective. And once again, call back to our last episode when we went in depth and talked about spermicide really well. And the diaphragm keeps the spermicide in place inside your cervix. So you can use a spermicide with the birth control sponge. You can use the spermicide with as it is, spraying it. As it is, the inputs that melt once the inputs that melts that are made with spermicide that melt inside the vagina. You can use it with the diaphragm. So that closely related to that is there's a difference between the diaphragm and the cervical cup. Or is it the same thing? Nah, no. The cervical cup, it's like a diaphragm. It's made of soft silicone, and it's shaped like a sailor's hat. Reference Popeye. You put it deep inside the vagina, and it covers the cervix. And there's a brand they talk about here called FemCap. It covers the cervix, stopping sperm from. Once again, all the methods for today is basically stopping sperm from fertilizing an egg. And then once again, to work better, it must be used with spermicide. And because the spermicide makes it more effective. So what's the difference between the cervical cup and diaphragm? Is that cervical cups are smaller than diaphragms, and the shape is a little different. Diaphragms are shaped like dishes. Cervical cups look like sailor's hat, reference Popeye's hat, and they all work with spermicide to cover the cervix. You can leave the cervical cup longer in the diaphragm, up to 2 days, but diaphragms are slightly more effective, because the stats here are cervical cups are 71 to 86% effective. Diaphragms are 88% more effective. You can leave the cervical cup longer than up to 2 days, but diaphragms are slightly more effective at pregnancy. And your nurse or doctor can help you to decide which one is best for you. So as you can see, both diaphragm and cervical cups are all require prescriptions. And yes, that's good. And still on that note, and it has more stats. It's a birth control ring. If you lose my voice, or if you lose if I lose track, or if I lose sound, let me know so that I can fix this. But then so far so good. Talking about the birth control ring. A birth control ring, it's branded a Nuva ring. It's a safe and simple way of birth control, and you wear it inside the vagina. It's a small flexible ring that prevents pregnancy by releasing hormones into the body. The ring is really effective if you use it the right way. So it stops sperm from meeting the ovum, like fertilization, like birth control pills. The ring contains the hormones estrogen and progesterone, and the vaginal lining absorbs this hormone directly from the rings. They stop ovulation, and also it thickens the mucus around the cervix to slow down sperm slow down sperm from actually getting to fertilizing an egg. Should ovulation occur even after the ring is set in place. To get the rings full control power, you have to use it correctly. And you have to keep on schedule and remember when to put a new ring, because it's laced with the hormones. The vaginal lining absorbs the hormones, but then there are times where you need to replace it so that it works effectively. So you need a birth control or a reminder app to set a monthly alarm on your phone to change the rings, to add the new rings. Note the ring removal and the insertion days on your calendar. You can set up WhatsApp group. Friends or family members use the ring, can be ring buddies, and they can mutually remind each other when it's their time. Use your partner to remind you when to replace and change rings. Keep your replacement rings in the same place so you don't lose them. And you need handling. You need to store the rings at room temperature and away from direct sunlight for up to 16 weeks, up to 4 months. Put any rings that you won't use within 4 months. Any rings that you won't use within 4 months in the refrigerator. So you have a stock of rings that you won't use. Keep them cool. So only get them out when it's time to insert new ones. But the bottom line is, make sure you change your ring on time every single month. Once again, ask the trusty condom to be extra specific, sure that you won't get pregnant at all. Use a condom every time you have vaginal sex, and that way you also protect yourself from STDs. The ring itself does not protect from STDs, and on stats it's up to 91% effective. Prescription is required, and you need to change it once a month. That's cool. That's insightful. And the last two that I should have mentioned last week, but then I didn't have a place. So there are two things. We talked about IUDs, but that's something different. I'm going to talk about the birth control patch. It's a transdermal. Basically means whatever the patch is laced with can pass through your dermis, your skin, and into your bloodstream. It's a safe and simple birth control method where you wear it on the skin or your belly or your upper arm. That means this is for ladies, that is. And you have to put a new patch every week for 3 weeks, and it releases hormones that prevent pregnancy. Then you take a break for a week and then repeat the same cycle. So in a month you have to replace the patch up to 3 times, and then you get an off week. It stops fertilization like birth control pills, but then it contains 2 hormones, estrogen and progestin. So remember, emergency contraceptives, they had a different hormone, Levontral. I'll check up the name again. But then in this case, it's estrogen and progestin. Same to the what's the name? The birth control. Like most birth control pills, the patch contains estrogen and progestin, which and these hormones are the ones that diffuse into your skin through your they diffuse into your bloodstream through your skin to prevent pregnancy. And it does in two ways: preventing ovulation, stopping ovulation from happening, and that means there's no ovum for sperm to fertilize, and also thickens the mucus on the cervix, making it harder for sperm to fertilize, to swim through the cervix, uterus, fallopian tube, and then their cervix, anti-cervix, and there then fertilize an ovum. It doesn't protect from STDs, if see any, and then they still recommend using a condom each time to also protect from STDs and also protect from pregnancy. And how to use it effectively? You have to use it correctly as the other methods. and you need to. The bottom line is, once again, is you need to stay on schedule. So use a reminder app, note it on your calendar. Have friends and family who also use this method of birth control. Keep you in check and remind you need to to use another patch, or you need a week off. Your partner can remind you, and you keep the replacement patches in the same place. The ones you need to put, or you need to put on next, in the same place, so that you don't forget them. You have to store them from at room temperature, away from direct sunlight, and do not put them in the refrigerator or freeze. Do not cool them at all. Just need to keep them at room temperature. Bottom line is, you have to be on time every single week to apply a new patch, and then you need to handle them at room temperature. And once again, if you want to be super duper secure, use a condom. Like, condoms are plan. That's the true plan B, the regional plan B. Out of all you plan Bs, may the real plan B please stand up. Slim Shady reference. That's deep. So the birth control patch is 91% effective. You need a prescription to use them, and you need to change it once a week. And my last method is the birth control implant. And this has the best stats, sort of. It is around 99% effective. The birth control implant is not an IUD. Let me see. Yeah, it's an IUD. Sorry, we talked about this last week. So yeah, but the birth control implant is the intrauterine device that we talked about last week. And remember, as I said, the copper intrauterine device also can be used as emergency contraceptive. So, then let me go over my source. Starts here about 99% effective as a method of birth control. That means out of 100 couples who use this form of birth control, only one get pregnant. Look at the statistics. Math. They need to be put in by a doctor and nurse. Not just prescription. They need to be put in by a doctor and nurse, and they last up to 4 years. Interesting. No, yeah. Why am I getting confused? No, birth control implants are not IUDs. Recall. Scratch the last 1 minute. It's a tiny thin rod about the size of a matchstick, and it releases hormones into the body and prevent you from getting pregnant. So this applies to women. A nurse or a doctor inserts the implant into your arm, and that's it. You're protected from pregnancy up to 4 years. Get it, and you forget about birth control. So there are two brand names for it. There are two brand names for it. It's Nexplanon and Implanon. It's inserted under the skin of the upper arm, and it releases progesterone to stop you from getting pregnant. If you remember, progesterone, there are two things: stop ovulation and thickening cervical mucus to stop sperm from fertilizing ovum. Those two things. Progesterone thickens the mucus on the cervix. It also stops ovulation. And the perk is that it lasts up to 4 years, and it's not permanent. If you want to get pregnant, you ask a doctor to remove that implant, and it does not protect against STDs. So far, only condoms and abstinence protects you fully from STDs, and also pregnancies. And every time you have sex, it does lower chances from getting or spreading STDs. So using condoms with your implant is the best way to prevent infections. I promised to tell you my source. My source has been the number one provider of contraceptive services, especially female contraceptive services, that's Planned Parenthood. In Kenya, that would have been Marie Stops, but then they don't have such a comprehensive resource. So yeah, in Kenya, the Kenyan version of Planned Parenthood is Marie Stops. So you should check them out. But then our source from today and the last 2 weeks has been, what's the name again? Planned Parenthood. So yes, if you see any politics against Planned Parenthood, tell them Amukasa give you insights from Planned Parenthood. And I'd like to talk about what is basically the point of having this podcast and holding this discussion, is that letting you guys, especially young guys, know you have a ton of more options when it comes to being sexually active, and also what was I going to say next? Sexually active, and also protecting yourself from infection, protecting yourself from pregnancy if you're not ready at all. And that's my point, letting you guys know you have a ton of options that you can explore, and so that we can finally drop this entire strong pull out game, weak pull out game argument that I've been having for a really long time. You have options. And with that, the podcast is over. I forgot to say this last week. And go ye therefore, and honestly and openly talk about your sexual and reproductive health. And I'll leave you with something else from our select musician. We play music from, we exclusively post music from Jamie the artist, Piper Pod Jamie. You can check him out on YouTube. He's a techie who left tech to become a musical genius. So yes, with this I'm out. Go ye therefore and openly and honestly talk about sex and sexual health. Till next time. Wait for it.